You're listening to the Tooth Sleuth Podcast, all about the business of dentistry, hosted by yours truly, Greg Essenmacher, a fixed full arch dental expert and founder of GnA Consult, speaking with industry leaders on the dental landscape from their perspective. At GnA, we specialize in transforming full arch dental practices, teaching, coaching, and training teams to deliver an exceptional patient experience, from that first call to delivering final smiles. Whether you're a practice owner, a DSO executive, or a regional leader looking to expand your full arch program, boost same-store sales, or unlock the true profitability of full arch cases, we've got you covered. Ready to see how full arch can elevate your practice? Visit the show page or book a discovery call today. Let's turn your potential into results. Welcome back, everyone. Tooth Sleuth Podcast. Greg Essenmacher here. I hope you know who I am, but if you don't, totally okay. If you don't, like, click, share, subscribe. I don't know. What else do they do, Nai? What else do they do if they're going to follow the
share
show?
on your story. I don't know. I mean, there's so many
Right?
now.
Repost, do something with the socials. I'm super excited to have on the show today Nai Weierman. She is new to GnA Consult, but not new to full arch, not new to what we do, not new to patient experience, not, right? I feel like I'm a sailor, like tying rope to make sure somebody doesn't fall overboard. Introduce yourself, Nai.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be part of the GnA team. Like you said, I'm not new to dentistry. I've been in dentistry over a decade. I always tell people dentistry kind of kidnapped me. I tried to get away. It just keeps coming back. And I'm so happy to be here now. I've been in dentistry, like I said, over a decade. I started in the office filing charts and slowly worked myself up. I worked for corporate, I worked for private practice, I worked for fee-for-service, cosmetic, full arch. And I really found my really sweet spot just because one of my strengths is compassion and empathy. So naturally, I found full arch to be the area where I really focused on.
And you talk about empathy, you know that's right up my alley. I like to say, so I like your analogy of what dentistry is like. For me, I talk about it kind of like mafioso, right? Like the family, like you can try to get away, but they drag you back in. So that's what I like to talk about. Well, let's talk about this, right? Because really being able to, you talk about what you're passionate about. Because I ask all my guests, right? Looking behind the curtain here at, the Tooth Sleuth Podcast, what's going on behind? I ask all my guests, obviously, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. But one of the first questions I ask, for people to fill out is, what are you passionate about? And I love you filled it out very simply: humanizing patient experience. So tell me, to you, what does humanizing the patient experience mean? And let's talk about that for a while, because I think that can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I always explain it by the two employees that I was. I always say there was Naiara A and Naiara B. Naiara A followed the scripts. She said all the right things, but she didn't really book the appointments. Like, it just wasn't working for me. And it wasn't until I learned to have a conversation and be there for the patient and humanizing the experience, humanizing the phone call, having that phone call not be scripted, but conversational, that I started seeing the results in myself. So then I started doing that in the treatment room. I started doing that in the office. And we saw such a change in confidence in myself as an employee, but also great results too in the office as well. So I am a huge proportion, like I said, it is my passion to kind of go back and drop the scripts if you have to and just be there for that patient, especially during full arch. If they're telling you that they're ashamed of their smile, if they're ashamed of the way that they look, or they don't have teeth or stuff like that, just stop the phone call, stop the script, and just be there and empathize and be a compassionate human being. Because at the end of the day, that's going to build so much trust in that conversation.
Well, and you know that I say all the time that scripts don't work, but frameworks do. And building out that framework so that the human can come out, right? The individual can come out, because it's no fun. And I talk to clients all the time, and when we're doing trainings, and that's why I bring in experts who have sat in the seat, who have done the roles and the areas. It's so critically important. Because for someone to sound like a 54-year-old white male from Detroit, that's me, although I've been in Phoenix for quite a while, their personality doesn't come out. And it doesn't mean, though, that having some type of scripting as foundation isn't important. If they come from outside of dental or they don't know what to say at certain points to be able to drive a conversation forward. But a simple framework like EAZ, empathy, assurance, and zeal, right? And the assurance of acknowledging when somebody asks a question, answering their question, maybe not directly. If they say, how much does that cost? $60,000, click, thanks, right? And asking another question. So that framework, so that their human side can come out, so that they can actually be themselves and their personality and the dialogue that they would use as if they're talking to a friend, right? I don't say a family
Absolutely.
member because you have to love your family. You don't have to like them, right? So I say a friend. And that's really what I hear you saying. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not so much, and like you said, everybody needs some sort of verbiage of how to say something, information about the office, information that you have to give the patients. But as you know, I work in coaching before and I listen to a lot of phone calls. And I've noticed even one, in myself whenever I was in the office, and two, listening to all these phone calls, there is so much information that the caller said that we didn't receive just because we're trying to just give information out and just go over verbiage and verbiage and verbiage and like telling them, okay, this is how much it's going to be. Then they gave us a huge piece of information that we could have built trust or gotten context clues for whenever they came into the office that we just miss just because we are kind of worried about the verbiage and how I sound and what I'm saying. And we forget to be human.
Right. Or trying to find, okay, where am I in this script now? Like they said something and they threw me off. They dropped from line 3 to line 23 and I didn't get in line 7 through 12. So how do I get back here? And they're scrambling. So they're literally not paying attention because as much as people like to think, oh, I can multitask, right? Especially men. We can't multitask. You can only put your attention on one thing. Now, if there's things that are automated, right? Or what I like to say is a mnemonic response, right? Because you've done it so many times. A good example of that, if you're driving, if you drive the same route to and from work, if you work in a practice, you know how to drive. You know, like you can drive for a while. Here's an example. Have you ever been driving for a while and suddenly you come to and consciously you think, wow, where was I the last 15 miles? Suddenly I just passed my exit. Of course, that's why I always put my GPS on so it alerts me. That means that you know how to drive. You weren't paying attention to driving on the road because I've been doing it for 40 years, right? Close to 40 years. Like I know how to drive, so I can be thinking about something else. But the multitasking piece, it's the where the focus goes. And that's sometimes where scripts can really bog people down and they'll miss that key piece of information. So Nai, tell me a little bit about what are some of the key pieces of information that we can pick up on that really make a difference, because you are leading the lead calls, right? You've did it for a while and we're handling an enormous amount of accounts at one time and really being able to coach them into converting leads into consultations and full arch and those that actually show up. So what are some of those key pieces that you've been listening for over the decades that you've been in dental? And let's talk about, right, full arch specifically.
Yeah. Well, Fuller specifically, I did just a little bit of a case study, and I found out that whenever somebody talks about their shame, when somebody's being vulnerable and we skip over that because we don't know how to react as humans sometimes, and I hear it on the phone a lot, like, oh, I'm just so embarrassed of my smile. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry about that. Well, we have Monday available for a consultation. Whoa, this person was just vulnerable. We skipped a whole part of being able to build that trust. When we actually acknowledge the vulnerability, we again build trust. And that actually helped towards the booking, the showing up, and the treatment acceptance. So if we want to change anything from that phone call, is that empathy part that you were talking about. Just making sure we're not being sympathetic, but empathetic. So being able to put yourself on the patient's shoes and saying, wow, they made a really big decision by calling today. And I'm so happy that it's me who's talking. Let me just put myself on their shoes and understand where they're talking, where they're coming from. So that's super important. That is the one piece that I've seen missing a lot, especially because we are in an industry that is very verbiage script oriented. I've worked it. I've seen it in a lot of offices. I was part of them. Employee A, in that era, employee A that I talk about, we had to go by a very tight script. And it was too robotic for me. I crave humanizing. I keep human interaction and conversation. I can't do a script. You can tell me what I need to say, but I can't script my whole phone call because I need to make it human. So that was the biggest thing that I've seen. And not just in full arch. I mean, I've listened to general, like, I haven't gone to a dentist in 20 years. How do you answer that? That's something a script is not going to tell you.
Right.
So,
And, yeah, I agree. And you're sparking so many thoughts in my head. One of the things that to be mindful of for sure, that shame and vulnerability piece, right? When patients start to express that shame, teaching here at GnA Consult, and I know that you've started your journey here. One of the biggest things is empathy, right? That means that I can relate to what you're saying, not, oh, they're there, right? Sorry you had that experience, but I can relate. And for the younger generation, but in general, anyone, right? If we have patients that are calling up that have a bombed out mouth or that are fully edentulous, right? They have no teeth and they're in need of a fixed full arch or, a full mouth reconstruction. Many of the people that are handling the phone calls, taking the leads in and trying to convert them, they might not have that experience of having a plate in their mouth, having missing teeth, having that, right? The actuals, right? The details. However, the feelings behind the facts is what we can train to and we can coach to. And so if
mhm,
we can share with them to relate to, have you ever experienced shame? Starting with, what is shame? Not the embarrassment. The embarrassment is the initial, but the shame behind it, when you carry those emotions and it triggers, something will trigger it over and over. And not everyone will have it, but many people do. And being able to tap into that so that it helps them to relate to the patient on the phone. I like to always tell this story too when I'm doing trainings, whether it's in workshops or one-to-one coaching or coaching our coaches at GnA. And it's that annoying piece, right? So, patient Jenny calls up and says, I have an upper plate. It's never fit right. It's a loose denture. And we're trying to convert them to come in for a consultation for a fixed, right? For a fixed upper denture. And, patient says, oh, it's a plate. It's never fit. It's really annoying. It rubs on the upper left. So I really just don't like to wear it. Well, if you have a 23-year-old that's working at your front desk, and my guess is they probably don't know what it's like to wear, a traditional floppy denture in their mouth. Probably pretty common. However, if you can get them to identify and empathize with something that's annoying. So you talk to that 23-year-old and say, do you have any brothers or sisters? I do. Younger or older? Younger. Do they ever annoy you? They ever get under your skin? You ever go out on a date and they sit there and annoy like your date? Or you ever have that? Oh my gosh, all the time. That annoyance, whenever somebody talks about a plate that just is rubbing and really uncomfortable for them, think of that younger brother or sister when they annoyed you. Relate to
mhm,
that. That's empathy. And so if
mhm.
you can draw those parallels in coaching, that's what can land. And so that's what it's really all about. Is I'm big on analogies and drawing analogies. Paint that picture, tell the story, and it's the same with patients of telling stories. And so have you done that when you've been doing coaching over the years, working with those that are taking phone calls? Have you used those examples?
Absolutely, especially whenever I'm talking to team members, because most especially in full arch, most people that are working the front desk, like you said, they've never had dentures. They never had full arches. So I usually ask the question, what's your favorite food? Mine, steak. I'm Argentinian. Of course, steak is going to be my favorite food. Well, what if I put a piece of steak and you couldn't eat it because you didn't have teeth? What if I put that right in front of you? How would you feel? You'd feel not included. You'd feel mad. You'd feel sad. You'd feel overwhelmed. Well, this is what the other person on the other end is feeling. So making them understand through empathy, because now they're kind of putting themselves on the other person's shoes, that if they had a plate in front of them and you can't eat it, I mean, imagine sometimes even the desperation of going every single day through life without being able to do that. And then another thing with shame that I used to tell coaches is, like you said, embarrassment is I did something bad, so I'm embarrassed. Shame is I am bad. So that's a huge difference that we also need to understand. Like, it's not just embarrassment. Embarrassment's like, I did something bad, I didn't take care of my teeth. That's one thing. But shame is like, I, as a human, am bad. And how do you coach and talk to somebody and build the trust through that? That's something that we as coaches have to be able to teach team members, because those make the biggest differences too.
That was put so much more beautifully than I did. Thank you for that. Because now, I mean, I can adopt that and use that for sure. And when you were talking about the steak on the plate, I could see it and I could relate to it. And it brought to mind for me in Disney, Beauty and the Beast, Be Our Guest. Like, I could hear Angela Lansbury singing that. And I brought that up because I happen to know that you are a CE junkie, right? So whether it's the Disney Institute or Ritz-Carlton Leadership or, Cleveland Clinic Heart Course, all of these are a part of your armamentarium and your education. And we know that, service above and beyond expectation is really what it's all about when it comes to patient experience. And I speak about this. Anybody who has seen me speak in a workshop or from the main stage from any of these conferences that I've done or on webinar series or on podcasts as a guest, that case acceptance, conversion is driven by the patient experience, which is all supported by team development. And it's so critically important to be reminded consistently and wash, rinse, repeat to be able to work on some of these things. So share with me a little bit about one of those experiences of all of this dental nerd out education that I'm a big fan of too, of constantly learning and being a student of life and of lifelong learning that you've been able to apply when you're coaching team members on these particular subjects.
Yeah. So I told myself, I'm either going to go for my master's or I'm going to create my own master's program. And that's kind of what I did. I'm like, let me go ahead and go down different rounds of leadership and experience and medical experience and things like that. And the main thing that I loved, and it's actually from the Ritz-Carlton leadership course, is Ritz-Carlton's employees own a task. And that's something in management even that I never really thought about. So whenever I am listening to the phone call and there's a patient who tells me, I need doctor to know X, Y, and Z, that I'm very nervous. Then there's a handoff in the morning huddle. There's a whole, sheet that they fill out. It's ownership to myself to make sure that gets relayed. And if it doesn't, it comes back to me. And that's something I wish more leaders would kind of introduce within their teams, because connection and family and all this stuff, it's nice and it's great and it's the feel good. But whenever you have a well-oiled machine and everybody has ownership of their tasks, and in my case, I help, lead call coordinators have ownership of their calls. If they don't show up at the end of the day, who owned that call, right? So that's something that I've learned from the Ritz-Carlton, to make sure as a coach that I put just a little bit of pressure. Like, you're owning this call. This call is yours. You answered it. What are you going to do with it? And I'm here to coach you how to do it best. But at the end of the day, it's your call. Do the best work that you can. With Disney, that taught me, the magic within systems, of course, and the magic with patient experience, making sure that we're not just a customer service, because, many offices have great customer service, but how do you make that patient feel like everything is magical around them? That comes down to humanizing, personalizing the experience too. That's where I learned all those basics. And then with the Cleveland Clinic, that kind of tied both ends. The Cleveland Clinic were actually not doing great until they implemented empathy above everything in their clinics. Once they did that, their profits soared, because as much as I'm human, I love data. Let data tell me the whole story. So once I learned that they use empathy, and once they implemented empathy within providers, within every person in the organization, they really put that at the forefront of their organization, then more patients wanted to come in. That showed me that there's retention there. There's employee retention there. I mean, there's so much information that you really can get from courses that are not dental based.
Yeah, and it's not just with the patient experience, but it is also on team retention and on building teams and strong foundational teams. And I love that for sure. And, take ownership is one of our operating principles at GnA. So I love how you work that in. That was really well done, Nai.
Thank you.
Well, this is the part of the program, Nai, that all of our guests play a little something called What the Sleuth is Going On. It's 3 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind, are you ready to play?
I am.
Question number 1, what's the worst bad breath you've ever encountered?
Oh my, it was actually on a plane, on a flight. It was the person right next to me. I'm like, Lord, how do I put this dental office card right next to the person next to me? And how do I look the other way? This whole flight, it was from Florida to California. So it was not a short one.
And just slide it next to him subtly, or get up and use the restroom and leave it on your seat face up, and turn the overhead light on, the reading light on. Just be like, maybe you might want to look at that. Just saying, I can help.
Yeah.
Right? For sure. All of us. Question number 2, if you could change one thing about your smile, what would it be? And I'm laughing for a reason.
And these braids and this bracket dolls. These are ultra Botox now. I look 12.
For those who are just listening on the audio portion, you gotta hop over to the YouTube at about the 21-minute mark, because she's got a beautiful smile, but she's got a grill. She's got a grill that's working on straightening them teeth out. So yeah, and it's one of the things, it's very endearing. It's something that I did notice too about you when we first met in person, and I love it. I think it's great. That's why I started laughing halfway. So for anyone who's listening on the podcast audio, I was not laughing at her smile. They're going to blow me up on socials anyway. It's okay. I can take it. It's perfectly fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it.
I'm 30, not 12. There's no child labor laws here.
Thank you for saying that. I'm in the clear. Oh, question number 3, last and final. If you could go back and be the inventor of any dental product, and no, you can't choose your own, which one would you choose and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me think. I would choose, something with AI. I want to go back and introduce more AI into clinics. I almost want to really do an AI answering service that is fully developed on empathy. And that's it. Just telling them what they need to know, but really developing the empathy. That way, when patients call in, instead of getting just a robot, they're able to hear just more of that empathetic way.
Love that. And that is such a core to what we do at GnA Consult. That is so important, right? To have that empathy, to make that human connection. As AI continues to develop, the human connection, in my opinion, is going to become so much more critical for those that will be successful moving forward. As much as we can automate, right? Certainly automate it, which will free up more time for the patient experience and human connection and empathy. So I love that. Well, Nai, in the last few minutes that we have here, the conversation's been fantastic. Is there anything you want to share with my listening audience that I haven't had a chance to ask you yet?
No, I'm really excited to be at GnA. I'm excited to teach everything that we do. So thank you for letting me have a platform.
Absolutely. My guest today is Nai Weierman, who is a sales trainer here at GnA Consult, who's been dropping nuggets left and right about how to do better call conversion. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Tooth Sleuth Podcast.
Of course. Thank you.
If you need help with converting lead calls into consultations, closing consults into more full arch cases, or creating a more strategic marketing message and branding for your practice or group, follow me for more tips or reach out to GnA Consult for a discovery call today.